Greetings everyone, and welcome to Keeping Up with Papa, Life After Work, where we find out how one man manages to keep himself busy, physically active, and mentally engaged after retirement with projects. Today's project? Well, this project I have been on again and off again for about a year. I was going to do it, I'm not going to do it. I am going to do it, I'm not going to do it. Well, in the immortal words of Jimmy Buffett, temptation got the best of me and I took a slash. Check it out. Why? First, velocity. Oh, but I've got that. Not about the thing. That the old shot. That's right. Well, today's project is a little bit bittersweet. After 10 years of ownership and over 1,200 hours of runtime on this Kubota BX2370 subcompact tractor, well, it's time for it to find a new home. Let's find out why. Check it out. And if you've been watching my previous videos, you'll be a little bit surprised to hear me say that I'm selling the BX. This has been an entirely reliable, extremely sturdy, wonderful piece of equipment for me for the past 10 years and, as I said, 1,200 hours of runtime. So you may be asking yourself, why am I selling it? Well, I have several reasons, and I've put together a justification over really amounts to about the last 18 months I've been considering doing this. First is that it's small. And actually that's one of the big advantages of the unit, because I can get into areas to do work, to do tractor work, real tractor work, that larger tractors can't get into. So I'm hired quite often to do things like that. But the small size creates an additional issue for me from time to time. Part of that is that it doesn't have a lot of ground clearance, and I till a lot of beaches. So the problem I run into is that I will get stuck on those beaches from time to time. So I've taken to keeping the front end loader on the tractor when I till, so I can push myself around in and out if I get into some mud that I'm tilling in and can't get any further. Ground clearance issues, by going up to the next level of tractor from Kubota, I think that'll pretty well be resolved, because the tires are really almost twice the size of the tires you find on the BX. So ground clearance is one, and the other is I would like to have a grapple. I do enough work for other people where I'm moving limbs and sticks and trees around that a grapple would really come in handy. And I can put a grapple on the BX. However, in this particular case, this is 10 years old. This is not a quick attach unit, so I can't just drop the bucket off and pick a grapple up, or otherwise I would have gone ahead and done that. Instead, I have to buy an entire new front end loader that's a quick attach and a new bucket to go along with it. So by the time I do that, I've spent, I don't know, and a third function valve as well. I've spent $6,000 maybe. And I'm just kind of thinking that taking that same $6,000 and instead of spending it on an upgrade, put it towards the down payment on a new tractor seems like a good idea. And then one more reason. This tractor with the front end loader and the box blade and the belly mower is going to my granddaughter and her husband. They have a nice piece of property a few hours from here, and they constantly have issues with their driveway being washed out. They've got some great big trees in the yard that they need to move, cut up and move around. Just a variety of things are coming up from time to time on a big piece of property where you could use a tractor. So they are buying the BX, so I will take that money and use that as a down payment on an upgrade. Let's see what I'm getting. Good morning. It's a little bit after 6 a.m. on a Friday morning, and I am loaded into the pickup. I've got our new, as of yesterday, 16-foot long utility trailer behind me, and I'm headed off on an adventure. I'm headed up to South Georgia to pick up a brand new Kubota B2601 compact tractor. Let's go get it. So while we have a little drive time, let's touch on a couple of topics. You may have heard me say that I have a brand new trailer, a new utility trailer. Well, actually, it's what's called a landscape trailer. It's one of those ones with high sides on it where you got a screen all the way around and holds everything in place. I like to use that to haul a tractor. I like to use that to haul a golf cart. Why? First, I think it's a lot safer. Things can't just fall off as a strap or to break, for example. And then second, I use my trailer as a landscape trailer. I will go to the landscape store and buy a big load of mulch to bring home for the house. I will throw a bunch of materials in the back of it and take it to the dump. Neither of those can be done with a flatbed trailer. Things would fall out. So it works really, really well. Now, I already own a landscape trailer. It's 12 feet long, and that's what I haul the BX on. The BX fits just fine with the front end loader up over the front of the trailer and nested in place. Actually, it's very secure that way, but just barely does it fit. When I had the box blade on the back, it's fine. But when I put the new stump grinder on there, no, it doesn't quite fit. I have to drop the back end down and have it just kind of hanging there on some chains made for that purpose. The old trailer is 12 feet long. The new trailer is 16 feet long. That should allow me to drop the bucket down on the floor and have implements on the back and still close the gate. I guess we'll find out if that's true a little later this morning. I have done the math on this in advance. The BX currently hangs over the front end about 1.5 feet. So if I were to back that up on the new trailer and drop it down, I would still have 2.5 feet of extra room on the 16-foot trailer. The front end loader on the new B is at least 8 inches longer, but let's just say it's 1 foot. That gives me 1.5 feet. And then the box blade on the new unit is about 8 inches longer than the current box blade I have. So that still leaves me a good foot of working room on the new trailer with the BX, with the B, and with a box blade on it. I suppose that I could nest the front end loader over the front of the trailer like I do with the BX on the old trailer. However, I'm not entirely sure that will work. Looking online at pictures, the new front end loader doesn't appear to have that really nice nesting point on it that the BX has. I mentioned that we had bought a new trailer to haul the new tractor. I thought you might find this interesting. I prefer to use a landscape trailer because I like the high sides. I use it for landscaping applications. And also the tractors fit in it very nicely, as do things like the golf cart. Well, the new tractor was not about to fit in the old trailer. In fact, the old tractor didn't fit in the old trailer. I had to hang the bucket over the front end to make it all fit inside. The new tractor is right at 15-ish feet. This is a 16-foot trailer. The old one over there is a 12-foot trailer box. New tractor fits in this absolutely just fine. The old trailer is being purchased by a family member. They'll pick that up this weekend. And by the way, I do like to use this little guy right here to move trailers around the yard. It works pretty well. It works really great pulling. It kind of gets a little wonky sometimes, turns sideways pushing, but it still manages to do a good job. Now you may be asking yourself, knowing just how pleased I am with the BX overall, why would I consider switching over to a B series Kubota tractor? Can I actually justify the added expense? Well, let me give it a shot. Third reason, and this is really a bit of a stretch, I would be moving from 23 horsepower just under 26 horsepower. That little bit of horsepower would give me a little more oomph on the stump grinder. It does have a tendency from time to time to bog down. I think an extra 3 horsepower would make a difference in keeping it spinning under those kind of conditions. Bucket size. Right now I believe the bucket on there is 48 inches. I'll have to measure it and double check. The new bucket will be 54. You actually have an option to go up to a 60. I did not want to go to a 60. It's only 6 inches of difference in width, But one of the beauties of the BX is it's so small I can get places you cannot get with larger tractors, and because of that I get work I wouldn't get otherwise. If I got a 60-inch bucket, I might not be able to fit where I need to go, whereas a 54-inch bucket, which is really just a little bit bigger than the width of the tractor, will still work just fine. So those are the pros. Let's talk about the cons. Cons are cost, money, obviously. I ordered the grapple separate. I paid cash for that, so that's out of the picture. But there's a price difference between what I'm selling my BX for and what I'm buying the new B for of about $22,000, and that will be financed through the Kubota financing process. Well, that's nice because it's 5 years at 0%. They do require you to take the insurance on top of it. That's going to add another couple of $1,000s, I think, by the time it's all said and done. So now I have a tractor payment, whereas I did not have a tractor payment before. That means that I've got to add that much additional work each month to offset that tractor payment. Well, the tractor payment over 5 years is not really very high, and that's just going to be 3 or 4 extra jobs maybe for me. So we'll see how well that works out, but the intent is to be able to add some work that I couldn't add before because I have the grapple, and hey, hopefully those numbers offset themselves. You might be wondering, why am I driving to South Georgia to buy this tractor when there are 3 dealers within 60 miles of me that I could have gone to buy the tractor from instead of driving 160 miles into another state? Well, there's a very good reason, and that is that none of the dealers nearby had anything in stock, and they were having a great deal of difficulty getting inventory. The dealer in South Georgia, actually, of the 4 different dealers that I had give me bids, they came in with the best price. That price was better by $1,000. For $1,000, I'll drive 160 miles. All that said, have I really justified upgrading from a BX to a B series tractor? Probably not. I mean, all the reasons I gave for doing it are really good, and the reasons I gave for not doing it are probably even better. I mean, who wants to spend more money each month when you really have to work harder to make it happen? Not me. But the simple fact is that my life would be a little bit easier having the B series. Hey, I'm retired. I don't want to, but I actually can afford to do this. I will be working more as a result, but I enjoy doing the tractor work. So that gives me something to keep me busy along with everything else that I'm doing from a project standpoint. Here I go again, trying to justify it. Doesn't matter. I'm doing it anyway. Will it fit? We're about to find out. Woo! Nobody expected that, did they? You know what? What you just saw deserves an explanation. Now, I'm guessing that most of you have probably already figured out what happened, and honestly, right as it happened, I figured it out as well. There are really only 3 ways that a trailer could pop up in that kind of a situation. One is that the coupler fails, and the coupler here did not fail. The second is that I didn't install it properly when I put it down on the ball on the back of the hitch of the truck. And that's not the case. It was installed fine. And third, the ball size was wrong. Well, it wasn't number 1, it wasn't the second one, but most definitely I had the wrong ball size on there. And that means that I picked up the trailer the night before, drove it all the way home, then the following morning I drove 160 miles north to pick up the tractor with no idea that I had the wrong size ball. Fortunately, there was no failure in that particular process. Now, I've been towing since I was 16 years old, and I've never had anything like this happen to me before at all. So that begs the question of why didn't I have the right size ball on the back of the pickup? Well, the utility trailer before this one had a 2-inch ball. My original campers had a 2-inch ball. My boat trailers have a 2-inch ball. The only trailer I have that has a 2 5/16 inch requirement is my camper trailer, my big camper trailer. And that camper trailer is a double axle. Well, all those other trailers were single axle. This is a double axle. So I'm starting to wonder, does that mean that when you move from a single axle to a double axle, you automatically move from a 2-inch up to a 2 5/16" ball? Must be the case. Something I was not aware of, something not mentioned to me by the trailer manufacturer. And by the way, they were on the way home from me when I was bringing the tractor back, so I did stop by and kind of give them a little bit of a dig about it. Reaction was, well, nobody was hurt, so everything's fine. And truthfully, no one was hurt. In fact, nothing mechanical was hurt. The coupler on the trailer wasn't damaged in any fashion. The hitch on the back of the truck wasn't damaged. It didn't pop up and hit the back of the pickup, the tailgate. It just popped up and cleared everything that could be damaged. I guess the only thing that really was hurt a little bit was, well, my pride. I should have known better. Well, this is not working out as well as I would like, but it is going to work out. Fortunately, there's a Lowe's about a mile down the street. They had a 1 5/16" ball, but that won't fit in the current hitch I have, so I've had to buy another hitch down here, which will hopefully go in. Let's give it a shot. Well, I had to bang that one out. This one slips right in. And this will work. The only problem with this is it's only a 3-inch drop. I really need about 4, but it'll get me home. We now have a 3-inch drop, and we have a trailer that's a little tiny bit nose high, but it's doable. Let's try this again, see if it works. So he suggested rolling it under like he's doing now to give you a little more distance, and we are sitting pretty. We've got plenty of space. Excellent, looks good. Quick little check, we realized there was no ballast in the tires, no water. So he's taking it back over to have that done and put into the rear tires. Third time's a charm. I do like the way that rear implement drops down. Hey, a special thanks to Spencer at Lender Tractor in Moultrie, Georgia. He did a fantastic job of communication. He was right on the ball, helped me out with all my little issues that I had while here at the dealership. And because of him, I'm out of here in a reasonable period of time with a very nice B2601. Well, you know what? I made it home safely, and hey, I even got a hat out of the deal. This is, by the way, probably the most expensive hat I had ever bought, but they did throw in a tractor, so no complaints. What do you say we do a side-by-side comparison? I took a little time when I got back to write some numbers down because I really was kind of curious about the differences in specifications and dimensions between the two tractors. So we're going to kind of run through a few things here just a piece at a time. Starting off with length, the BX comes in at 95.3 inches. The B2601 comes in at 94.9. That's actually shorter than this. Now, we're going to take a look at this in just a second. That really doesn't make sense to me because I've got the two of these essentially lined up side by side. So my back dimension right here is kind of pretty much even on these two tires. Let's do a quick look here. Might be off just a little bit, or I'm a little tiny bit further back on the BX, but not much. Walking over to the front, however, I am substantially shorter, it appears to me. Most definitely, if you look at the tires, front tires on the two, and if you look at the front end, just where the grill guard is, okay? So the grill guard, gosh, that's a good angle here. It's 3-4 inches difference at least. So despite what the dimensions say, and of course with the grill guard on the B2601 is a more aggressive, a larger grill guard. But if you look at the base the two attached to, this one on the BX versus that one over there on the B, it's longer. So those numbers they just don't make a lot of sense to me. Looking at the specifications on the tractor width, the BX is 44.5 inches and the B is 49. I'll accept that. Most definitely we probably have at least 4 inches difference between the two. Just out of curiosity, let's put a tape to it. Here's our width dimension on the BX, outside of rear tire to outside of rear tire. Looks to be right about 45 inches, and that kind of jives with what I heard earlier. Now let's check the B. Okay, the B is supposed to be 49. Yeah, it's pretty close. So 49, I'll go with those numbers. That looks good. Next question, weight. Tractor only, no implements. The BX, and by the way, I went online, looked all this up, and confirmed it as best as I could. I had the actual book available on the B. I didn't have it on the BX, but I did find it online pretty easily. So the BX is 1,410 pounds. The B2601 is 1,632 pounds. So it's a little over 200 pounds heavier for the B. Now let's do a comparison of the buckets and front end loaders for the two tractors. The front end loader for the BX is an LA243. For the B, it's an LA435. Those two numbers reflect kilograms lifting capacity. I believe that's what it is. So the 243, which is a 47, they call it a 48, but it's a 47-inch wide bucket. It has a cubic foot struck capacity, not heap capacity, of 4.9 cubic feet. The B series, which is called a 54, but it's actually inside dimensions are 53, it has a struck capacity of 6.7 cubic feet. So it's what, 25% bigger, which is nice. That'll really come in handy. And then the next obvious question is weight lifting capacity. They give all kinds of specifications on whether it's at the end, whether it's up here at the front, as far as weight goes. What I've come up with is something called a forward at full lift, or forward at max height weight. So that number in pounds for the BX is 518 pounds. That same number for this is 659 pounds. Now as a pivot pin, which I'm assuming is right here on this, it's 948 pounds on the B. And I don't have that number here for the BX. I couldn't find it. Obviously at the pivot pin with this, you have to then deduct the weight of the bucket from that total number, and that's probably where that 659 pound lift capacity I mentioned earlier comes into play. That sounds a little more accurate. So I've been figuring around 700 pounds. Now let's talk box blades. The BX has a non-Land Pride brand of box blade on here. It's 48 inches wide, and it also has an overall depth from here to here of 23 inches. Over here on the B2601, we have a 60-inch width. This is a Land Pride implement, and it has a depth from this point to this point of 27 inches. So it's a little bit longer this way, and obviously I intentionally bought a 5-foot wide instead of a 4-foot wide box blade. That 1 foot will make a lot of difference for the grading that I do. And here's a dimension that's kind of important to me, and that's the height of these tires. I have a tendency to get stuck in sand and sometimes mud. And clearance, and I don't have these exact numbers, but clearance on the B is substantially higher actually than clearance on the BX is. The tire height here, which does in fact make a difference when you're dealing with trying to not get stuck. This is about 24 inches, give or take. These, 32 inches. So 24 versus 32, that's 8 inches taller. The width is about 12 and the width over here is also about 12. So one is no wider than the other, but I will have substantially better gripping capacity with these tires in difficult conditions than I do with these. And these do really well. This I expect will do a lot better. Let's take a look at the front tires. Front tires, width on the BX, 8.5, width on the B, roughly the same. So no difference in width on the two tires. Height is on the BX about 17. Height on the B is about 21, so 3 inches taller. I think really the big difference here though to me is the ability to handle weight on these tires. Several times, in fact there'll be at least twice, maybe 3 times, I have let the air pressure get down on this a little bit and the tire has rolled off the bead and cut the tire up and had to replace them. I am told that is far less of a problem on these larger tires than it is on the little BX tires. Now can that be avoided on the BX? Absolutely yes it can. It's the most important thing you can do before you go out and do a heavy lifting job with a bucket on the BX is make sure the tires are up to spec. An example being that this tire loses 5 pounds of pressure over a week, and whenever I start to use it for something heavy I make sure that it's been refilled with air and brought up to spec. Why does it lose air? I don't know, it just does. How about specs on the ropes, the ROPS, the rollover protection system? Well, the height on these two when they're both extended are virtually identical. Actually the BX is a little tiny bit taller, kind of a surprise. But that really makes no difference. From my perspective, I typically keep this folded down as it kind of gets in the way when I'm mowing around the property. You know, it catches tree limbs. Let's do an overall length comparison with implements in place. 2 box blades are lined up to each other. Walking on up the line, and by the way, these are both 54-inch decks, you start to see this variation come into play. And when we get up to the very front, where the 2 buckets are, here you go. I'll take a quick measurement on that. All right, I'm really just kind of eyeballing this at the moment, but you look here and you see that I've got the front end of the tape measure in roughly the same plane as the front end of the BX bucket. So moving on down a little bit and getting right over top, I am about 13 inches longer. Now just double checking, I believe that kind of covers all the key dimensions. Yep, that's it. Maybe the size difference comparison will help you in some decisions that you're going to be making sometime in the maybe not too distant future. So the little BX in 2 days goes to my granddaughter and her husband. I gave them the Papa deal, meaning that I looked to find out what the whole rig was worth, and then I cut 15–20% off of it. It's what you do for your grandkids. One last comment. I can't stress strongly enough just how incredibly pleased I am with the BX over the last 9 years. It has done a fantastic job of meeting and exceeding all of my expectations. It is a fantastic piece of equipment. I'm trading up from the BX, not because of any performance issues with the tractor, but just because I'd like to have a little more capacity in the activities for which I use a tractor on a weekly basis. Well, that's it, and thanks for watching. As usual, comments and questions and advice are welcome. Please remember to like and share and subscribe, and I will see you next time on Keeping Up with Papa, Life After Work. Papa out.